But yes, it is the finals of the Ting Open. Both players have fought tooth and nail to get here. There's a lot of story and backstory to both. But, of course, I think a lot of us are looking for this guy here in the top left. He is the foreigner. He is the challenger. The red Protoss. Team Liquid's Mana.
In the top right, as the teal Zerg, he is Jynaire's Rogue.
So as we recently learned, Rogue played in his very first televised best of 7 here on Base Trade TV. And I'm wondering, if we take that one step further, does that also mean this is his first best of 9?
This has to be the first best of 9, because this is the first best of 9, I think. Not ever. There's probably been a couple of tournaments that flew under the radar, but as far as the big tournaments, I don't think there's been a best of 9 even in old Pro League. I think it was still a best of 7 even in the grand finals. So
well, I'm happy because it's not a ZVZ, but I'm really happy because Mana had probably the... even if you forget Mana for a second, faceless, nameless Protoss here. There was 2 Protoss in this entire damn tournament. Or so it felt. As we saw really good ones like Patience and Hawk and everybody get knocked down in that round of 32 very quickly. Left down to Mana and Naniwa. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see Naniwa's games, so I can't judge how well those went. But Mana has played extraordinarily well. He's changed up his playstyle frequently from PvT to PvZ. And we'll see how he does here today in this grand finish. It is worth noting, this best of 9 is worth something close to like $3,500. It's $2,500 to the first place finish, and I believe $1,300 to the second place.
Yeah, that sounds right. So they have quite a bit of cash. I mean, if whoever the loser is got to be pretty happy to have gotten this far and take home, that amount of cash anyway. But everyone's gunning for that first place. Now, Mana, is definitely, I think, the people that if you're going to play safe bets, a safe bet is going to be on Rogue, and I don't think there's much contention in that. Even Mana himself would say that was a good bet, as we interviewed him not yesterday, but Sunday rather. And it's just Rogue really is a really good player. I mean, obviously, Pro League on Jynaire is a great team, but Mana, I didn't think he'd do well against Snoot. I didn't think he'd do well in his group before that, and he consistently blew me out of the water. So hopefully he's still sick. So, the pattern's still going.
Yeah, it was while I'm sick and playing the best, he said. It's worth noting, too, in that Snoot best of 7 semifinals, he did say, despite his overwhelmingly nice victory, he did say he was fighting more against Snoot than he was versus Zerg, and he'll see how his PvZ is. It is fair to say that Mana... and many other Protoss players have fallen into this trap of the game right now, where we talk about this almost invisible clock. There's a real clock, but then there's also like the race clock that ticks, where at a certain point in the game, Protoss will certainly crest over and be almost unbeatable. But prior to that, Zerg have every opportunity to win a game. Roach Ravager on, Mutalisk, split pushing, you name it. So it's not like Mana has to play super turtly, and in fact, I would say that's probably the worst way to play against Rogue. Maybe get a little bit aggressive, and speaking of which, I like this opening.
Well, I also like the scout, unfortunately. The Overlord speed did come in pretty early, so that was a very easy scout. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't do something with the Dark Shrine. Oftentimes, we've seen the Dark Shrine only be used for 1 DT, and it alerts its presence, it kills 4 drones. Barely even seems worth it, and honestly, the follow-up is difficult to do. Now that it's already been scouted, I think he's going to keep it. I mean, he hasn't canceled it yet, so that 1 DT is going to probably do nothing. But, I mean, as long as it buys any amount of time to get a third base up, I think it's did its job.
This reminds me as well. We have Mana made a promise to the stream, if you recall, actually.
Did he?
The winner of this best of 9, if he should be that person, he would subscribe to the channel.
Oh, that's right. Hey.
So for more reasons than the underdog, I am rooting for Team Liquid's Mana.
Yeah? Rogue did not make such promise.
I did, by the way. I will put a little bit of depressing news out there, guys. Oh, cool. We're going to have a drop out of Rogue as he comes over the map. I did ask, I got a translator ready, and I asked Rogue if he wins today, would he be willing to do a bit of an interview? And at first, I think he was worried about he didn't have a camera. Then there were some concerns about his team might not be okay with what he had to say. So unfortunately, despite my best efforts, if Rogue does win today, we won't be able to get a winner's interview.
That's unfortunate.
Make that a requirement for the next time, I guess.
Yeah,
nice catching that Overlord, though.
Yeah, very nice. We did have Rogue also go for a Baneling Nest, so if there's only any early game Adept shenanigans, he would be able to tear that up pretty easily. But it's actually Blink first, and this is, Mana has been not just going with the standard PvZ, like Adept run by Suicide into Immortal Charge-Lot Archon. He has been mixing things up. I mean, eventually he gets to roughly that same composition, but, going with Blink first, sure we'll see a couple of well-timed all-ins from him too, whether that's Blink or Resonating Glaives, but Blink first here, and that's going to give him a little bit more opportunity to control the middle of the map. It is horizontal spawn as opposed to when you have to just suicide your adepts. But he's always got to be careful. Like, Blink can only get you so far until Lings completely surround you.
So he did make another Overlord into a drop Overlord. Just kind of on standby for the time being. But I like the opportunity of having that there.
Mm-hmm. Could be really useful. We actually have Mana, so, he's been going... Yeah, never mind about that Overlord. He's been going Blink, and then he does switch over, I think, a lot of his games that we saw into eventually, like, Charge at Archon. And I always thought that was, like, really dangerous and impressive if he made it work, because it seems like it'd be such a late transition. But what we've been seeing from Naniwa, not in the group that I casted before when you were casting, was that if he went Blink, he was usually going to go for... disruptors, like Blink Disruptor was the composition, or Immortal Charge-Lot. I think there's some mixing up that's been going on in Mana, for Mana, so we'll have to wait and see what this Robo is for, but it would be cool to see some Disruptor play.
Okay, sorry about that. I was a little bit worried. People were reporting there's some stream problems, but everything looks good on my end, so our mods say things are fine. I'm just going to go with it, but legs are quaking and quivering because it's like, come on, not you in the finals.
Yeah, it's something about playlist, I don't know. That Adept is actually... Okay, there it is. It goes back on the wall. That's a lot of Hydras. So, 17 Hydras. The Lurker Den going to time out pretty quickly here. And it is going to be a bit of Disruptor play. So, just a single Immortal.
I like the Disruptors quite a bit when you come into the consideration of what's possible. Storm is really good. I don't think anyone's ever going to contest that. But the problem is how long it really takes to get out and be effective. Well, these Disruptors were not rushed as a necessity. They do come out much faster, and their damage is more instantaneous. Whereas Storm, of course, damage over time. Kind of hard to decide whether you'll have them in time for an attack. But for both players on this, it has been a bit of a slow build-up. Mana, comfortably on 3 bases. He's getting more DTs. Most likely for Archons, if I had to guess. With these Disruptors, means he can take on Hydras, Roaches, Ravagers, Lings, oh my. But he is going to struggle against Lurkers. Long and gone are the beta days where it was like Disruptor Ball versus Lurkers, and you're trading out life for time. It doesn't work like that anymore.
No. Zergs have figured out that if you can't, push in with the Lurkers, then you kind of go around with the Lurkers, or you go around with the rest of the army, and maybe the Lings flood in, and the Lurkers do eventually. The point is, it's no longer that stalemate that eventually goes in favor of Protoss. There are 2 Disruptors, but that's not going to be consistent Disruptor damage. It's going to be very careful, and in fact, using both for any amount of Lurkers is actually really dangerous, especially when it's only 2. There's still a large army behind it, but he has a wall set up.
This is where the Cyber Core is. It's really bad if this goes down. It's going to be less Stalkers available, and he is relying pretty heavily on Blink Stalkers for the time being.
You might want to go ahead and just start remaking that. Yeah,
there you go. Smart move on him. Mana puts it in the back of his main. Now, the front wall does get compromised, but this isn't so bad, because Mana's going to take better engagements if any Zerg tries to push up through this. Archon on the front line's a little bit dangerous. Not a lot of reliable detection either. This is where Protoss players really enjoy the use of an Oracle over, say, Observers.
That's certainly true. There's also, Disruptors can hit Lurkers without you seeing them if they're burrowed, so if you realize where they are, those can also take them out, but you still want to know exactly, and that's where Revelation usually tags all of them. The Observer can be easily sniped, in fact, can be focus fired by the Zerg, depending on what their goal is.
Yeah.
Now we're getting up in Disruptor count. He has 2 Robos. When it gets up to 5, it's basically going to be consistent Disruptor shots, and they'll never be totally safe pushing in, which is always the fear. That you use a lot of Disruptor shots on Lurkers, and then you have nothing for the Roach Hydra follow-up.
Well, Mana going to take some damage at the front once again. This is... people were giving me crap for saying split pushing earlier. Maybe it's not the same as when you watch Terran do it, but this is that same idea where Rogue's really just trying to catch Mana in 2 different locations and find one to be advantageous. Disruptor shot not so good over there. Not really a lot of defense over on this side either, but looks like these Disruptors will, get those sweet hits. Pylon and Cannon work together, and good synergy keeps this base alive. But while this goes on, Rogue doesn't necessarily have to over-dedicate. He could be taking a 5th and a 6th, and frankly, the half of the map that Mana's not currently holed up in.
Well, he took the aggressive 4th, which he didn't really touch on, but it looks pretty nice. So Mana, I don't think he would have wanted to take the aggressive 4th. He's certainly going to take the one that's behind him now, but it was a possibility. It's giving faster reinforcements and both a attack point and defend point for Rogue. But you're right about the overcommitting thing here. Like, it is getting dangerously close. I mean, his disruptor count's still growing, is going up to 8. That is a lot of disruptors. And they're getting really good shots. Like, they're doing at least good enough shots.
Yeah, look at the
pretty
resources
good shots.
I mean, this is how Zerg wanted it to be. You know, you're trading your resources for their time. Okay, fine. But at a point, that's not going to be worth it anymore. And the value of these attacks for Rogue is falling off. Mana's almost at that point, too. He didn't really get a lot of Immortals. He can't just push in with this. You know, there's different games where you see, like, 14 Immortals in play, and you're like, haha, Lurkers, a move. But unfortunately, his reliance on Disruptors makes that not a possibility.
There is an Overseer. We saw one DT kind of be the defending DT. A couple of cannons are really going to help out against this very low amount of units. I mean, Rogue...
He's got to protect these Disruptors.
He's not Terran, you know? He can't stim and snipe 3 Disruptors that are alone. At best, he could snipe 1 with this low Roach Hydra composition, so he always had to be careful pushing into this.
It's funny you bring up composition, though. That's where I really start criticizing Rogue in this situation. A big part of why Protoss started dying to Spire builds was because they went for builds like this, where not a lot shoots up, and anti-air isn't that reliable. I mean, Disruptors are great, don't get me wrong, but Changeling's getting into the mix, also being a little annoying.
Basically, any transition whatsoever could really catch him off guard. And the Disruptors, are they really all on cooldown despite having so many? Oh my god, a lot of them are actually going down here.
The Roaches also all go down as well. 3 Lurkers, no, only 1 gets hit. Detection not so reliable, but I think one of the problems there, I brought it up before the fight began, Rogue was really using the Banelings, or sorry, not the Banelings, the Changelings, to sort of mangle where Mana could even move to in the first place. He had a hard time moving the Disruptors anywhere safe.
Yeah. Even they were surprisingly effective at being clumsy for Mana. But Mana also had to deal with a little bit of an attack on the left side, so that's also where the tension was diverted, so he could get a 4th up, and he does need a 4th at this time. Rogue, though, also needs a 5th. I mean, Mana's actually banking a lot of money here.
Right, this is where I actually wish Mana would start investing like a ton of cannons around this 4th, and he wouldn't have to worry about putting any defense over there at all. He'd just be good to go. But Rogue... Again, just going back on the fact that he never really took those extra bases, he doesn't have a lot of money. If this army dies, if these Disruptors get some magic hits, there's not going to be...
Ooh, not on your own army.
Anyways, if these get magic hits on the enemy, excuse me, it's not going to go well. But Mana's army's starting to bleed out. He's lost a lot of that buffer. He's sitting there with 2,200 minerals, and I got to wonder, like, what is it? The air transition is what he's saving for, but can he live long enough to get there? He needs warp-ins. He needs reinforcements. He needs buffer for these Disruptors.
Now, there is definitely some mismanagement of that macro. Like, yeah, you're going to need something to buffer in case they go into Broodlords, but getting to Tempests safely should have been the first priority, and they don't need 2,000, 1,000 in the bank to do that. So it does let Rogue break him, but he has a counterattack, a very small one that's trying to do damage, doesn't actually do a whole lot, and not even any DTs, where actually this probably was so off base that DTs would be effective.
DTs would actually, you just focus down maybe like 1 Spore Crawler.
Yeah.
Base over here still under attack. Mana not really been able to saturate it. This looked like this was going to be Mana's game for a while, but Rogue has really started to turn this around. The downside is, though, we look at Rogue's momentum, we look at the income graph. Rogue, and more Rogue. But it is going to start falling off because the main's mined out. The natural's mining out. He's been just using money to throw away at Mana this entire game.
Oh, the probes!
Well, that's not good.
Well, luckily he was on 72, I think, so he has a few to lose, but...
Well, the problem is still... Oh, he's showing more, so he's got... Not good, not good. Mana's starting to fall apart. Like, I feel like this isn't all of his mojo already disappearing this early into the series, because he had a great start to this game.
He did. The resources lost were insanely in his favor. I mean, half of what he has now, but still like 24,000 for Rogue.
I mean, Mana's been playing far more cost-effective, but the problem is Rogue has been intentionally doing this in a way that was throw your money away for the biggest gains possible. Oracle comes out. That revelation he was looking for earlier. Better, more reliable detection, but the Disruptors all caught in a corner, all about to go down. 3 barely get out of this alive. Might not even be 3. Looks to be 2. Luckily,
they cannot hurt each other.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one thing they can't hurt is each other. Or air units, I guess. But the flood of Lings coming in after this is going to be dangerous because Mana doesn't have anything to deal with them. There's no splash, there's no more Archons, there's no wall of Zealots with blades ready to tangle. I mean, this 3rd base going down kind of sucks. 4th base already went down. Mana, he had a bank, it's gone.
Yeah, that is going to be game after losing the 3rd base. He also does not have mining in his main or natural, and it was a very close game up until he got broken, man. Oh, that Warpens was denied.
Well, Warpens was denied, but the... oh, no, it's not, actually. 2 health
doesn't
remaining.
die. Yeah. But it really can't warp in very much. He used up all that bank. He can't replace Nexus, and I think he knows it's going to be game over.
I will say, though, even though Mana is on the brink of losing this game, he played it out well. And I wouldn't... Rogue's probably said to himself thinking, too, like, okay, this was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Those probes, though.
I think what probably contributed to a bit of the contentness for Mana was that he did have scouting on what would have been the 5th base. And I guess seeing like no 5th base, he must have figured that that Rogue was going to start falling off a lot sooner, but he actually didn't. He still had a very good army up until, well, he started to win, basically. So if he had caught Rogue where he was really running out of steam and then transitioned into his own Tempest with a huge bank, oh yeah, he probably steamrolls. Like, that tech is way, way above that of Rogue. Or maybe he thought Rogue was going to start teching himself. Like, either way, he thought that the power of the attack was not going to be as powerful as it was for the first 8 minutes or however long it took. But it continued to be.
Well, shout out to Ozlord Gaming for the 9-month resub. Thank you for coming back during the finals. Link's going to try and get on top of the Stalkers. Really just nothing left for Mana. I think he's going to be sitting here a little bit in disbelief. This is his only income. This is his only mining. It's everything he's relying on to win this game, and I just don't think 4 mineral patches are going to do it.
No. Trying to get to that last good army, I guess. Long distance mining with his probes.
I mean, it's better than not, I guess. This game did go so wonky, and it's, again, to Mana's benefit. I'm not trying to talk up the underdog too much here, but there were a lot of really cool things he did this game. I can't really say Rogue played too complacently. Like, he was spreading out his lurkers, he was very careful to snipe off the observers. A big part of why Mana had that wonky control is because you had to keep the disruptors and the observers in the back and away from the front lines. So, again, Rogue didn't do a whole lot wrong here. Just Mana started breaking himself towards the end.
Yeah.
Good disruptor hits.
Yeah, I mean, the composition that he's going for can take on a rather large army, especially since his army is only, like, lair-based, but it's too large, there's too much reinforcements.
Actually, that's fine. That reminds me, every time we've cast Mana, we've talked about how, like, his best situations are the ones where he's in dire straits. Something about that stress seems to really kick him into overdrive, and he takes these amazing fights. It's worth noting that while Mana was long-distance mining, so was Rogue, finally transferring all the drones over.
Yeah. So that is going to be game as he pushes in here. Ravager's going to start tearing down buildings, probably, as he can't quite catch the disruptors. Mortal's going down. Robo's actually, I didn't even notice that one of them has been depowered. I don't think Mana did either. He's still chrono boosting it. A single Void Ray. I mean, hey, he doesn't have any anti-air.
Yeah, the Ravagers aren't guaranteed to get hits unless Mana sits still, but he's going to type GG, and the Void Ray is actually going to barely live, if you guys saw that at the end of the game. And Rogue will take map number 1. I don't think that's anything too insane for people to consider Rogue taking the first game, but I was just more astonished at the way that went. Like, I really cannot begin to credit Mana for how that went as far as the start of that game. But hopefully he doesn't beat himself up too much, keeps his composure, and we'll see how he does in the next one. What is map number 2? So I can go load the intro.
It's Loser's Pick, so I don't know.
Ah, that's right. Even though I just said that to stream a little while ago. So really quick, guys, because it is Loser's Pick, someone had asked earlier, could you please explain to us how map 8's going to work? I tried to do this at the start of the stream, but to do it again, if you've ever tuned in for the Alima League, you'll understand. But basically, they'll use all 7 maps up first. At that point, the map pool will completely refresh, and we will continue Loser's Pick, and they can pick from any of the maps that have already played. No new maps were introduced into this. It's Detox instead of Central Protocol, the exact same map pool we've had going into these finals.
Excuse me.
Priantaris says, gold base hype.
Indeed. Yeah, it's surprising how many Protoss are actually picking this now. Before it was just a Zerg map.
Well, I think the power of big gateway islands has started to really show through, but of course, I guess we should probably talk a little bit about Ting once we get Rogue here in the lobby. But the TLDR, for those who don't know what Ting is, it is a US mobile phone service. They've done a great job sponsoring this event. I don't have the final numbers in yet, but Jesse's going to let us know what the final tally is. Because he's actually, not only is he going to come on and play that best of 3 with me later at the end of the stream, he's also going to give us updates on whether we met our sponsor goal or not to try and get another tournament for Ting. So I'm very excited to find out. We were at 35 4 days ago, excuse me. and we'll see if we've managed to get that 40 count up yet or not. Because if we can get another $5,000 from tournament from Ting, guys, you bet we're going to get more great games, more good matches. But again, the emphasis is it is U.S. only. Everyone's been asking, when's Ting coming to Europe? When's Ting coming to Canada? I know I've been asking that one at least. But, yeah, look into them, guys. Make sure you go to bttv.ting.com to learn more. It looks like we're good to go. So we're going to play that map intro. It's Gold Base Hype. And we'll see you guys in just a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ting Open Grand Finals, a best-of-9 match between these two players, currently playing out on the North American server, the middle ground between Europe and Korea. Spawning in here in the top left side, though, it's going to be the Red Protoss. It was his map pick, Team Liquid's Mana.
In the bottom right, as the Blue Zerg, he's Jinair's Rogue.
Okay, Rogue, obviously the crowd favorite. We've talked about this. Code S player, Korean. There's just so many things about this guy that screams scary. But I really love that Mana came into this series, and he played that first game so well. I really didn't sense any fear from him whatsoever.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of points to talk about. First of all, thank you, Nitrous Pelican, for the 15-month resub. Woo! And then
Nephilim88.
Yes, so the 2-month. Woohoo! So first of all, on this map, we do have Rogue going for like a really early hatchery, which sounds really odd, but it was a 14 hatch to get the most benefit out of that gold base. Followed up by not a second gold base. He could have been, I guess, really, really greedy, but not so. Goes for the pool. But then about Mana, like, I really wonder about a game like that as a professional. You know, there's only so much experience that anyone else has just playing in like the StarCraft 2 tournaments, you know, on Battle.net. But like, you started off that game actually really great, like surprisingly great maybe too, because Mana really didn't think like he had like a great chance against Rogue, and you actually go like, you know, toe to toe, and probably you're even winning at one point with that extreme units loss difference. Does that, like, even if you end up losing that game, does that boost your confidence, or did you just consider that a throw and you're like, oh god, I'm going to crumble to the rest of the best of 9?
I think Mana is, this is actually, I think, true of most of the Team Liquid boys. Because of how many tournaments they've competed in and how long they've been competing for, it's hard to say any of them, any member of Team Liquid would have that sort of issue. But we got a donation coming in. I'll read that out in a second. I just want to quickly remind everybody about the sponsors for today. Ting Open is brought to you by Ting. Without them, we wouldn't have this awesome tournament. We would never have the finals. I will say, I think the round of 8 was one of the most hype days we had in this whole event. It's going to be hard to beat that, but I am looking forward to the rest of the games in the finals. You guys can learn more about Ting over at bttv.ting.com. You got a really cool savings calculator you can check out, and maybe sign up for their phone services.
Yeah.
Of course, Ozlord Gaming doing its $5, and I got to read this one because it says Canada! Fellow caster hype!
Woohoo!
Canada for the win.
Yeah, Canada.
Zombie is the honorary Canadian in this instance.
Why?
Because, well, let's be honest, you're going to have Trump, and you'll want to come here afterwards.
Well, that's probably true. Well, if it is Trump. I don't know if it'll be Trump.
Well, I don't know, man. People didn't even think he'd get very far in the... well, anything, really.
Yeah, well, people also thought that Bernie Sanders had a chance.
Ooh,
yeah.
All right, Fast Limited Carapace coming out of Rogue. He did this last game, so this isn't too surprising, but it is worth noting this is being paired up with a lot of Lings. We don't have an Evolution Chamber yet, but it builds fairly quick, and if he wants to start getting some drops, we may just see that be an opportunity. But while this goes on, the Stalker does get an Overlord kill. That's kind of nice. That's the Overlord that would have wanted to be one of those said drops. We have the Oracle on the way. Might be able to save the Stalker. Speed kicks in just in the nick of time. Full surround. Nicely done.
That's unfortunate. Of course, I mean, it is always going to be dangerous to straight up to send a Stalker out if you don't know for a fact, for like a 3-hatch or 4 pool, for instance. You know that speed's probably going to be on the way, but wanted an Overlord. Unable to get it.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, like, getting the Overlord kill was definitely not cost value effective to the Stalker, but it does remove supply from your opponent, possible scouting if Rogue wasn't going for fast speed. I mean, I kind of feel like that danger, against most players, maybe not worth it, but Mana seems to always play the information game when he's playing, and it's a pretty important edge to have.
Sure, and that's why it was like not really worth it, because there was Overlord speed on the way. So even if you killed all the Overlords that were near your base, they'll just send one that pops with Overlord speed. So there's really no helping it. It looks like Rogue's like is this series. He basically said, I think that the only way he's gonna beat me is probably through surprising me. And if I get Overlord speed, then I don't have to worry about it.
I don't know how I feel about double Stargate builds on Umbreon. Like, a lot of the times we see advantage taken, it is through bullying and that extra mineral income, needing less workers to achieve the same income number. It looks like Lings break that front line as well, so getting a little bit messy here in the natural. The thing about the Phoenix, and more importantly, the double Stargate, is not only is it revealed, it's expensive, gas-wise. Something Mana's not going to be swimming in.
Oh, that's one pearl, please. Right, yeah, it is interesting. I think it is going to try and bank on a little bit of that surprise. Suddenly having 15 Phoenix is a problem when you're only expecting, 7 or something. But it was scouted, and it's, I don't know, I think that Rogue's going to have a good answer for it. Whatever that answer is, he's getting a lair right now, and it kind of feels like he's maybe going into Aspire, but he doesn't have a Roachborn, so Hydra's can be worth it. There's a little dangerous, as Phoenix is actually in large number can take on Hydras. But first and foremost, trying to get this third base nice and secure and then saturated. It's going to be, of course, another gold. Rogue get away with his gold, so fair is fair.
Well, the Hydra Den versus the Phoenix dynamic is a little bit interesting. We actually discussed this quite a bit with the prospects of Archon mode yesterday. One of the biggest mistakes we see in 1v1s is the Protoss player leaves this Phoenix kind of hanging around in the middle of the map. Oops. You know. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen, because a lot of this is dependent on those Phoenixes. So, if they don't get any, offensive damage done, say, they never kill another Overlord, or they don't get another Queen, at the very least, they can be used defensively and actually be able to pick up key units. Now, Rogue is investing into Roach speed, so he's not going to go pure Ling Hydra here, but he is going for Hydralisk as his main anti-air, and he's going to have to get a lot of them to make sure that they're not just picked up by the mass amount of Phoenix that we have here, and they do have +1. Yeah, this is going to be really interesting to see how Mana decides to take this course of game, because if Rogue goes just Hydras and Lings, Mana's unfortunately just not going to have the energy to lift everything up that he needs to lift up. If Rogue takes it further, Infestors come out, Fungal Growth, Ravagers, Lurkers even. I mean, there's a lot of ways these Phoenix can be really useful, but there's also a lot of ways they can be a huge detriment. Picking up some of the Hydras to start, though, is not too bad. Some freebies as he does walk out of the base. 2 Hydras, 2 drones go down.
Not bad. As long as they survive.
It's dangerous to be running around the map with the Oracle, but I do wish he'd get a tag on this army so we know where it was at all times. As Mana is playing a little bit in the dark. He doesn't have observers scattered across the map. He doesn't have a lot of vision. That
is true. I mean, it might be worth it. Excuse me. Just to have that. The Phoenixes are supposed to provide that limited amount of vision and limited amount of scouting, the key scouting, hopefully, seeing the Lurker Den, seeing the Hive. But they're always going to be in danger if they don't know where the Hydras are. Or maybe even eventually where the Vipers are, if there is going to be a Hive in this game. The first Rogue's going to be going for Lurker Den. He has 20 Hydras to 11 Phoenix. So that's certainly enough to cover and turn in a couple into Lurkers.
He's taken a very long way around the map with the Overlords, but it's worth noting there's 16 Lings on the way to the main, and the last thing you want to do is have to use 16 Graviton Beams to clean that up. Ideally, Adepts and everything else would be way better in this situation, but they're over here at the third, they're guarding the gold base. So, no idea this is coming, and again, if Mana had a random pylon up here, observers scattered, he just doesn't have information. Yeah,
that's pretty bad, but hopefully he'll be able to take care of it with a warping of charge lots, because he actually went for charge and +1. I was worried he kept on warping Adepts, but they're just both similar colored.
This is actually be really interesting, because charge lots are pretty damn effective against Hydras. If we can tear through the Lings, 16 Lings in the main versus an entire army in the middle of the map, who takes the worst trade? Mana's going to back away for the time being. Does he know about this? He's going to see this first glimpse of these Overlords now. The Oracle alone could go back home, I feel, but it's not got a lot of energy, so it's not guaranteed to clean this up. We got some Adepts warping in. No, excuse me, Zealots warping in. No cooldown overcharges in sight.
Though, it's +1 charge lots versus just Lings that aren't even upgraded.
So 2 swings.
Yeah. Actually, this last Zealot is barely gonna die. It needs just 1 or 2 more lifts from its buddy. The Warp Prism's gonna go down.
What was he? He took a left. He did control that, but he's just what?
The Phoenixes had to go back home, so a couple of Lings are getting more than their fair share of kills.
Stasis Trap gets a good chunk of the army in the front lines, though. This question really does come down to where does Mana want to engage? Out in the open or back in his base? He is going to Graviton Beam up some of the Hydras and back away. There's just not enough ground army to contest this. GG.
Yeah. He couldn't get past the Roaches. If those Hydras are out of position or if there's not as many Roaches, then the charge lots absolutely slice and dice the Hydras.
Definitely. Well, this is going to take us to our first commercial break of the day, guys. So let the players know. this is just simply for a word from our sponsors, because again, without Ting, this wouldn't be possible. So if you guys want to learn more about Ting, obviously the biggest thing people want to talk about is money. Ting doesn't charge you a plan like a conventional phone bill. Like, for example, I pay like $70 a month on my Telus bill. They pay you, or excuse me, you pay what you use. It's rates. So if you use less, you'll pay less. But I'll let them do the talking while we get this ad out of the way. So we'll see you guys here in a couple of minutes for game number 3. All right, folks, welcome back. Game number 3 currently underway. Just apologies on that taking a few extra seconds than expected. I had some lobby bug issues, and we wanted to just get back into the game ASAP. So here we are, ready to rock and roll. Game number 3 here in the best of 9. People were asking about the prize pool during the break. I guess some of you guys have not seen. There's a $5,000 prize pool for this overall tournament. However, this first place prize that these two are currently fighting over is worth $2,500. The loser walks away from this with $1,300 though, so I think everybody gets rich today. But I am Rifkin, casting with Zombie Grub, and spawning here on the upper right side of Dusk Towers, we have none other than the blue Protoss, Team Liquid's Mana.
In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, it is Jennair's Rogue.
Now, of course, we talked about before, Mana in that last game especially kind of missing out on a lot of information, perhaps missing some timings, awkward response to the Overlord drops. I gotta say, if nothing else this game, on Dusk Towers, obviously there's gonna be the question of double robos for Immortals or not. I don't really care about any of that, though, because I want to know if he's going to have the information he needs to fight Rogue. It's hard to play blind against a Korean, and it's really hard to play blind against a Korean like Rogue.
Sure, yeah. I mean, Mana's been changing up. It's only been 2 games, but both of these games have already been to completely different styles. It's Dusk Towers to see him actually go back to the normal PvZ of Charge Lot, like Immortal, Mass Immortal, wouldn't be too surprising either. But Rogue is, I guess, even if Rogue started losing games, like he's actually up 4-0, which actually would not be a win yet, as crazy as that sounds, and he starts losing, then, like, everything is now in, like, his pocket. Map choices are his to choose, and, like, build choices are also his to choose. Because he's done nothing but Roach Hydra, and maybe he'll do Roach Hydra again, but if he threw in that transition to Spire, or if he threw in, like, a big Lurker all-in or something like that, I mean, this, it's really, like, Rogue's series, even though he's only up 2-0. Man, that's a lot of games.
It's just that Mana hasn't... Like, Game 1 looked amazing up to that point, then flopped. Game 2, same sort of deal. Like, he had a grand standing army, but he wasn't able to deal with what came his way. I gotta say, though, what Mana excelled at most at in every series leading up to this, though, whether it was against Snoot in the semis or even just in his group stages, was getting aggressive. Like, Mana's the type of guy who... I don't like when he plays defensive because I feel that plays against what works best for him. And I'm not talking cheese, guys. I'm not talking proxy robos or stargates, but just being aggressive, getting across the map with a warp prism, keeping Rogue at home, dancing around the mineral lines instead of fortifying a wall off and trying to turtle your third.
Well, sometimes you just can't do aggressive maneuvers. Already been prepared for it. And, well, Rogue with this consistent early Overlord scouting is almost always going to be prepared. I mean, there are ways to not all-in or cheese that are still add a little bit more of, an aggressive maneuver, like those adept suicides. Sometimes, despite what they were, like, every single game, we still had Zergs not anticipate them. Well, with this Overlord scouts and Overlords, like, roaming around your base and your attack paths all the time, it's going to always be hard to surprise your opponents.
Well, Mana had to reach for the Overlord kill last game, kind of gets it handed to him this game. Yeah, I've never been too big a fan of the big Adept all-ins that are like, okay, I got to the Mineral Alliance, and oops, I've lost everything and I have 12 supply back at home. But again, whether it's a big all-in versus something like Harassment, every series, just thinking back to it again, like whether it was versus Terran, Mana would lose a macro game, boom, double pylons in front of Euthermal's base, easy win. I mean, it's obviously not the same matchup here, but just that level of aggression, that snap, that seems to be his best strength, and not caring really how he does it, I just want to see him do something this game.
Yeah, I brought up Mutas, but I thought more of a transition, but that is a really early layer in PvZ. No Evolution Chamber, no Roach Warren, not even a Baneling Nest.
He's got the gases for it.
Well, this is Mana's turn to scout something, so he's not surprised by it. But it is going to be a Roach Warren, thrown down after the lair's already about halfway done. The Oracle, I can never tell if that's going to be, maybe it did change Rogue's mind, seeing as how Mana will be getting some scouting, or maybe he always plan on going into Roaches, but it's going to be Still, pretty early Roach speed.
A lot of what Rogue was doing, and again, it's not always this matchup, but, you know, Mutas into Roaches, Roaches into Mutas, he's good at tech swapping. So maybe he sticks on this and just does Roach Ravager all in, and that's fine. That's a perfectly good way to play. But it is worth noting that, especially against Protoss, tech swaps have been more deadly than ever. So you gotta kind of keep your eye on that. Like, it might not be Mutas now, but it might be Mutas, later.
Yeah, actually right afterwards. So I do wonder if that was just going to be, in case the Oracle got a scout, or the Phoenix gets a scout, so that you'll be able to maybe hide your Spire, even though an Oracle is running through your base. Well, he's actually going for Roach speed, but he's also getting +1 melee. So we'll see how many Roaches or how many Ravagers he'll be getting. Maybe pure Ravager, maybe Roaches for buffer. They got a Transport Overlord being made. Rogue is playing with that quite a bit in this series. Mana does need to get a scout on this Spire. I mean, it'd be cool, you know, Rogue to hide it and like good for him, but that is something that you need to scout, and you need to start pumping out more Phoenix. Luckily, he already has 1 Stargate, and if you see it early enough, you can start getting that count higher and higher, but...
Yeah, I mean, even the most perfect Phoenix count, you got like 32 Phoenixes, but you don't get caught off guard by like 50 plus Mutas. It still go poorly. We do have drops for both players happening in this game, though. Mana's going to be going with some Zealots to the Mineral Lines. They don't have +1 with them or charge yet, though, so this is going to be a rather... easy to deal with Zealots, I feel. Meanwhile, we got Lings kind of rallied the long way around the map. This is something that would require, I think, a lot of playing against Rogue to figure out. Because then you just put a pylon on the edge of the map, and you see this coming every single time.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of opportunity to adapt in a best of 9. And again, by the 4th game, it's still not over, even if it's a 4-0, so... He could turn it around at any point. The Zealots do get into the natural and see the Spire, but that is the first sight on the Spire, and it's already done. Mutas are already out. Zealots will be a bit of a pain to clean up, and it'll give them some time to start Phoenix production. There's a second Stargate. Well, he's going to be very careful, you know. This is with a Mothership Core, so it can recall, but make sure that Mothership Core doesn't get sniped.
Yeah, he's going to try and focus on the hatchery. A recall immediately would be his best bet.
Yeah,
he has been using recalls a lot in his games, and used them especially versus Snoop more recently. So the recall does go off, and the army does get home safe and sound. A couple of probes die to a Ling run by, but nothing too dangerous. But the alerts come in, and Mutas are on the way, and I don't know if Mana's got enough to deal with this yet. I love this Stasis Sword, though.
It's going to help out versus the Lings, but so is the Sim City. So, you know, that's... He's probably covered on the Ling front on 3 bases for now. 3 bases, Dusk Towers, makes sense that it would be easy to defend against, but it's when that 4th base is needed for Mana that things are really going to get tricky. Now, he does have double Stargate production, does not have a Fleet Beacon, and that's where you really just are like, you know, lull, like kind of A-move with the Phoenixes. It might be.
I think it's
this is
between those 2 pylons.
Yeah, it's a tricky SimCity when you SimCity diagonally on this map.
Right, well,
Robo is not letting him through.
Backing off for the time being, Oracle gets a nice revelation to see where those Mutas will be at all times, so he can respond. Gotta give some love to Garino for that new sub hype, though, and running a dream throws $10 into the donation jar. We'll get to that message in a bit, man. It's a bit long for now, because we are on the cusp of a possible battle. Mutas really just looking to find any way into this base. 6 more even coming out behind this. I mean, Rogue's not letting up on this.
He's following up with those lurkers. It's a problem if he's going to take over the map, and Mana, like I said, is going to have a tough time getting to that 4th base, which he will inevitably need, even if he does get to a good-sized army first. Still want that backup.
Nice
he's getting to Storm, he's got Archons, that is a nice revelation. He's actually holding off on the Phoenixes for now, but that might be a mistake. There's still not a lot of Phoenixes, and that's a lot of Mutas. 22 to 6 Phoenix. Getting the +1, he is going for that range upgrade, so he's not like giving up on the Phoenix, it's just that he stopped producing them.
It is incredibly hard to take this, so both players, it's worth noting, have a lot of control they need to play off when doing this. Obviously the Mutas have to be careful of Archon Splash, the Phoenix have to be careful they don't get in too close, because the Mutas can absolutely destroy them in a head-on engagement. It is their mobility, it's their the capability to move and shoot. One of the few units in the game can do it. I mean, Phoenixes have a lot of advantages, but they can't fight a move versus a move.
That was a very dangerous clump up. That Archon was right there. More Phoenixes are on the way, and they will have those that upgrade for the range. But, you know, Rogue's already transitioning. Yes, thank you. He's already transitioning into Lurker. Roach, Hydra, Lurker getting the upgrades for those missile attacks as well. And the Mutas are not being added onto anymore. So once they're dead, which is a nice feeling, and it probably will happen eventually. But he's going to want to use them to the best of their ability.
So something that's going to happen while this goes on, too. I mean, there's been a lot of focus on the Mutas, but Mana's still sitting on 3 bases while Rogue took a 4th and a 5th.
Yeah.
So of course I have to replace that one, but yeah, it's just expanding like crazy back at home. His income's been winning this game out so far, and he'll continue to do well. Nexus in the natural base about to go down for mana. Really gonna hurt here.
Yeah, that sucks.
Oh no!
Yeah, I think the probes actually going down suck more because he didn't actually have that many. Well, he had enough to begin with. He didn't have an excess.
He has chipped away at the majority of the mutas at this point, though. I mean, Mana's controlling pretty good in and out. Rogue as well dancing, and decides to move out while this goes on.
Oh,
I mean, there was such a big investment in these mutas. The fact that they're not going to be able to help with this. Cannons are down. Cannons are actually going to be able to defend against these Lings quite well. The last mutas die, and here we go. Time for Rogue to feel some sting on his 5th.
Yeah, so losing the natural for mana is actually, it's okay, well, no cancel there. Because Mana's actually banking a lot of minerals, so he can replace both his natural and his 4th base. No! Okay, guys, that's quite bad. And Rogue loses his 5th, but they can both replace those bases. I was more worried about, the fact that a Roach Hydra Lurker army was already out. If he had accidentally walked into that as opposed to going for the 5th base, he would have been in a lot of trouble, but good thing on the recall, he would have been trapped otherwise.
That was not just like a good move. That was such a sick move out of Mana, because he had, I don't even know if he knew about the Lurkers, but he saved his entire army. He would have lost the game. That would have been GG worthy. Duh, he depowers his gateway with freeing the Archon. It's a little awkward.
Yeah, and there's like an Arctosis pylon now for everything else. Yeah. He does have to deal now with the Lurkers on the ramp, which is a situation you don't want to find yourself in, especially as your 4th is trying to get down. Those hold positions. Oh god, no, you didn't see it.
The Phoenix are actually going to be really nice for this situation. Like, you lift up the Lurkers, they can pick up the Hydras. The hold position out of Rogue was good moves. 4th base goes down for Mana, and he's stuck on 3 once again.
Yeah, this is very bad. You need to... I mean, ideally, you have your own Concave, you have more Mortals, and the Phoenixes are picking off... No, he doesn't. They're picking off units as they come by. Like, you don't want to actually already be stuck on your 3rd base. So that's where Zerg is really powerful with the Lurkers. And, of course, that lack of detection is what first got him susceptible to that hold position.
Yeah, Oracle finally gets 1 revelation down, but there's much more necessary than that. Immortal stuck on the ramp a little bit in abandon. We did have Lings get through to the main. Phoenixes and Cannons over here trying to clean that up. Front part of the base starting to go down. Immortals are actually...
Wow.
The count of Immortals is good enough to take on the Lurkers if he can see them. Storm's going to blink on top of the Lings, and this is getting kind of dangerous.
I think that Mana's already lost this game. I didn't even realize he never replaced his natural. He was so focused on getting the 4th base. He was actually on 2-base mining with a main that is mining out. Rogue has a huge bank behind this. Even if he was pushed back here, it would not matter. It's too much for Mana to recover from.
Yeah, that income graph showing just how far ahead was actually, even if we didn't notice about the natural, just going to this shows, Jesus, for almost 5 minutes straight, Rogue has almost doubled the income of Mana. And it's unfortunately, while a decent fight, Mana does clear up a majority of what's in front of his base. It leaves him with 29, 30 supply, whereas Rogue, with 5 bases, not a problem making all those Hydras all over again.
Yeah, already up back up to plus 100. Good news is the Lurkers are all down. But this last one maybe dying. It's a lot of shots from just 2 Phoenix. Oh no, the Hydras.
Armored hype?
So there's 1 Lurker, but that is easier still to deal with, just a pure Roach Ravager composition. Just numbers, though.
GG. Mana, you know, it sucks, though, because I will say with the exception of Game 2, so far in all 3 of these games, Mana hasn't looked too bad. But the score is going to show a 3-0, and no one's going to know that without watching the games.
Yeah. That's what sucks about this, I guess. Looking on Wikipedia and being like, oh, that's what I expected.
Yeah. Well, either way, it is, of course, best of 9, so it's going to take 5 wins for Rogue. I do want to remind everybody that while we're not taking an ad break or anything right here, we are going to have a 10-minute break after this next game. This is in order to play the AMA video from Ting, where they read out your questions from Twitter, and we're going to basically just... I've seen the video. Jesse is an adorable guy answering questions. He's got a little bit of, like, frostburn or windburn on his nose, but that's what you get for skiing.
I was about to say, like, frostburn. Might just be straight up sunburn.
I don't know, man. Because, like, as a very pale dude, I know what sunburn looks like, alright? This is... Alright, Orbital Shipyard. Let me just get the intro loaded. We should be good whenever they are.
Okay.
Alright. So here we go, map number 4. This is still not even the end of the series. That's what's so awesome and crazy about a best of 9. Do stick with us, and we'll see you guys here in just a moment. Alright, game number 4. It's not looking good for the Foreign Hope guy, but we'll see if he can bring it back. In the bottom left, it's going to be him precisely. The Blue Protoss, Team Liquid's Mana.
The Foreign Hope guy, does he have any relation to the Useless Facts guy on Reddit?
No, but he is the best European.
Oh, that's right. In the top right, as the Red Zerg, it is Jyn Rogue. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, we did a little while ago have a tournament called Who's the Best European? People were very upset because they're like, well, this tournament isn't indicative of who's the best because not so-and-so played and this didn't happen. But it was one of our bigger tournaments from last year, and it was Mana who ended up winning that in a very nice best of 7, I think, versus Lil Bao. It was a Protoss. I don't remember which one. What I remember more from that series, and I'm sorry to Mana, was not Mana's finals, but Muslim and Welmu's third place match.
Oh yeah, that was a good match.
The proxy gateways into Muslim's mineral line.
Welmu's given us quite a few good games, hasn't he?
Yeah, Welmu's a fantastic. He's very entertaining. I love watching Welmu play. But anyways, Mana, though, like we said in the interview yesterday, this is not his first time being in the finals on Base Trade TV. He is quite the contender. Seeing those lings is certainly a little alarming, and he's gonna have to build.
Yeah, so he did go for a Nexus first, which is a little unfortunate, but that will give him a lot of backup. So these lings actually have quite a big job to do. This probe is going to be able to scout if any more lings are on the way, how much gas is being taken. The problem with a wall-off like this is that they will eventually break down that pylon. The Zealot won't be out in time, so you're going to need to SimCity behind it.
It's pretty awesome though, because we did see Naniwa do some really good showing of how to basically hold buildings, constantly build walls infinitely. See if Mana's got the chops for it. When the Zealot comes out, it's certainly going to be able to fight, but you can't put on the outside of the gateways. It's going to need some probe help, or it's going to die.
Yeah. And this is where sometimes that natural-based SimCity looks a little better, because you can get the Zealot protected by probes without having to really pull them all that far away. Now, Adept should start up, or Stalkers, or something that is, range, so they can actually kite these a little bit more, as if it's just Zealots, that's enough lings to actually surround 2 Zealots.
Well, again, that's where the probe pull comes into great effect, but both gateways go down. Mothership Core's on the way. This is not a great spot for Mana. In fact, this was a cheesy opener from Rogue. I don't think he was expected to snowball like this.
Yeah, this has been one of the best early attacks we've seen. Certainly, we've seen the first gateway go down, or both gateways don't go down, and the pylon stalls out. But to lose all gateways, all pylons, plus 7x core, that is really quite bad. The only thing that Mana has to go for him is this earlier Nexus, so he can still continue to produce probes at a pretty fast rate, because his probe line is actually never endangered. That's one benefit, I suppose, but his tech has to be restarted from 0. So that's not so good. He has to remake a gateway to remake a cybernetics core, and that's going to hold off on Warp Gate for a long time.
It's funny you bring it up, right? If the Cyber Core didn't die, Mana actually had quite a good money count going for him. He could have done a lot of different things. But I was thinking actually to Tails recently, who was playing on our stream for the I think it was the G2A Cup or something, and he was doing something a little conventional with some Forge openers that we haven't seen in God knows how long. And I guess the funny thing is, had Mana done that this game, he would have been safe and sound.
Yeah, that is a good point. He saw an early pool build from that guy that everyone was excited about, but and he went for Forge. Yeah, thank you.
But I was going to say, if Mana had put his first pylon, there's another way this could have gone too. If Mana had built not at the ramp, but in his mineral lines, this could have played out very differently. Again, referencing other great Protoss players, not to take anything away from Mana, Huck is always my favorite when it comes to talking about this. His SimCity is phenomenal when it comes to building early on, and rarely, if ever, will lings get damage like that done, because you'll be set up around your main. So,
yeah,
this looked really ridiculous, but it is worth noting, Mana's way to build, while not by any means bad, this is how 90% of Protoss players build, it wasn't good versus this particular build. Right.
So this is a pretty poor position just because of that lack of tech. We actually have Mana trying to go back into double Stargates here. If he gets double pumped void arrays, that'll be great against these roaches. But otherwise, it's going to be quite late. And actually, even with slow Overlords, not getting that fast Overlord speed this game, Rogue seems like he's going to be able to scout it. Where is it? It's actually at the front, so maybe not. The last place you'd expect.
Wonder if he's going to have the gas.
Oh, we already saw it. Never mind. Saw it with the links. Well, darn.
It's funny, there was another player, I can't recall who it was in our qualifiers. They did this mass Oracle build that made us really go, wait, this can work? Goblin, it was Goblin.
Yeah.
And funny enough, that would again be something that wouldn't be too bad in this situation, but Mana's going to have to do with lings going to the main, frankly, he doesn't have what it's going to take to deal with that. To hold the front with a Mothership core and still have something in the main base, that's not likely to happen. If the Phoenix were over on the right side picking off that Overlord right now, this wouldn't be an issue, but Overcharge going to be going off here towards the front. Mana has nothing really to defend against these Lings as they get into the main. It's going to be probe pulls and probe pulls.
He has more overcharges. I'm surprised he's not using them, but a force field comes down. That's there you go. Now he uses them as those Lings come in and kill his sentry.
But it's really important that those Lings did come over here instead of go to the mineral line. Mana actually had a chance to fight. But at the same time for Rogue, it's what gave him the opportunity to break Mana from behind. So Phoenixes are not going to be enough. Depowering the Stargates is going to be so disheartening. And yeah, this game is not going so hot for poor Mana.
It's probably game, yeah. I mean, he was pretty greedy trying to get a third base after delaying his tech for so long, so certainly that played into it.
The logic, though, was that's how you catch up from taking losses. You play greedy.
Sure.
So it's not like, oh my god, Mana made the worst choice in the world doing that, but it didn't work out for him. And that flat of red coming across the map, still looking pretty nasty. And it looks like, yeah, Rogue's got this game on lockdown. GG. All right, well, that's not the end of the series yet. We are going to take a 10-minute break now. So 10 minutes, go get food, use the bathroom, whatever, to play an AMA that Ting recorded. They took your guys' tweets, they answered to them to the best of their capabilities. This will also give Mana perhaps some time to get up, walk around, shake it off, message a friend, get some builds. I don't know, but hopefully just come back refreshed. So again, 10 minutes, guys. We're going to a break here, and we'll be back soon with more of the Ting Open Grand Finals when we return. Also, a quick reminder that we are going to have that sort of Easter egg bonus best of 3 at the end of the cast today, where it'll be myself versus the sponsor. This was not something I wanted to do, but I will do it. So we'll see you guys here in about 10 minutes or so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for that extended break, but thank you for watching all of it. That's the greatest thing I think a sponsor can do is connect directly with the community, and Ting has been pretty active about this. And of course, we're going to be taking that one step further. Is Jesse, once this series is done, will be coming on to fight me on stream. I don't imagine it's going to go so well for him. But we do have to finish the actual grand finals first. So $5,000 of this tournament brought to you guys by Ting. And I hope to God we can do more work with them again for a season 2 in the future. But it is working against this fella. He's on his last life right now in the grand finals, shooting for that second place prize. Let's see if he can bring it back. It's Team Liquid's Mana.
In the top left, as the Teal Zerg, he's Jin Air's Rogue.
All right, so far, not so good. But I do want to kind of go back. We had a bit of a refresh moment here for Mana. 10 minutes to stretch, clear your mind, get your head out of the sort of gutter that is, okay, I keep losing. And maybe, I'm hoping, we're going to see more of that Game 1 Mana here. Not the part of him that lost, but the part of him that was ahead for like 80% of the game and made Rogue honestly look like putty in his hands.
Yeah, he looked very strong, and I thought he might even win that game. So, I mean, hey, he would have one more game after this if he lost this. If he had, then oh well. Things happened, and like I said, I brought it up in the second game. I wasn't sure if that was going to hurt him or help him with how well he did, and then ended up losing, unfortunately. But I'm really hoping that 10-minute break has helped him. I mean, I think some people would be like really peeved, even if they are on a losing streak, because they just want to go ahead and get going. They figured everything out. They don't need 10 minutes. And some people who actually are thankful for 10 minutes and actually do clear their head or talk to a teammate or something like that. Yeah. It's always the one thing that's it's a little like sucky about doing an online tournament instead of an offline tournament is that teammates aren't coming up to the booth to like, you know, rub their shoulders and give them advice and stuff.
I remember at BlizzCon, that was like the coolest moment for me watching that really connect when like Innovations in the booth kind of stressed out and MMA comes in from behind to kind of help them out, right? Vice versa, MMA in that grand finals, Innovation's the one coming in to say like whispers into his ears of strategies, or I don't know, but yeah, it kind of sucks that Mana doesn't have that direct line of help. But again, maybe in the break, message Snoot, talk to another Zerg friend, maybe get some ideas. It is worth noting, though, Runes of Ceres, I'm surprised to see the Stargate. I thought Mana for sure would have gone for Blink on a map like this. But maybe, seeing the third base where it was, didn't want to try and go for that very risky all-in.
Yeah, Rogue had a very nice third base placement. So it's always a risk, so you don't get a scout necessarily. I think he did get a scout, though, luckily for him. On where your opponent is, and you actually expand towards your opponent. But even if they do that, it seems like Zergs have been winning those very close close by ground wars. But this time he was far away. He's even farther away from Mana, exactly where he would have wanted to expand. And a Blink Stalker all in, it could have possibly still done damage, but did not want to rely on it.
So we glanced over this earlier, and I'm incredibly sorry because I forgot. We just had so much action going on. Running to Dreams did donate $10 early on in the cast. It said, actually catching a cast in the year of our Lord 2016, and the Ting Open Grand Finals, no less. Hell, it's about time that happened. Keep up the amazing work, Rifkin and Zombie Grub.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Running of Dreams. Now, some Lings are going to come to the front door, but even though the Stargate is revealed very early on, I mean, there's 2 Adepts. There's no danger of this wall going down, not like last time. Overlord gets picked off on the back of the base, so it's going to cut out information.
Last game, Rogue didn't go for Overlord speed, but it made sense, because he went for an early pool, so, yeah. He wasn't really looking towards that macro necessarily. This game, a 3 Atcher 4 pool, doesn't get the Overlord speed. Now, unfortunately, how are you ever going to just blindly call that as Mana? Like, okay, I think this game, because it's this map, he's not going to go for Overlord speed. Like, I don't think you're doing that. So this would have been the opportunity for Mana to maybe get in that hidden Dark Shrine, the one that was scouted so easily on the first game. Maybe actually bulk up his Phoenix, although the Stargate was on the front line, so I think it wasn't so secret. The point is, maybe a missed opportunity. I don't really know where Mana's head is right now. Obviously, he didn't try that Blink Stalker all in, so he's not desperate anyways yet. Maybe if it's game number 9, which would be really sick if it went to, but isn't looking too hopeful now.
I know, again, like, if we never saw that first game, like, if I had, for whatever reason, stumbled into this cast on game 2, I wouldn't think Mana stood much of a chance. But there was, like, that glimmer of hope, that strength shown in game 1, that I sit there thinking it's possible, not likely, but possible to see that happen.
Now, what if that was just because Rogue wasn't taking it seriously, but because he showed his strength, he did? It's like, Goku not Super Saiyan, and he's like, oh, actually, you're kind of a good opponent, and then goes Super Saiyan, and you're like, shit.
So it's not like he wasn't able to go Super Saiyan yet. He was playing it cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe. I mean, there is the reality that Rogue may have come into this with a little bit of arrogance, but again, like with the Kings of Craft and other events he's been competing in, he knows foreigners are a lot better than they used to be. And whether it's Mana or anyone else. Ling's getting quite a bit of damage done, though. 7 drones get picked off on the other side of the map while this happens, so Rogue looking for a bit of payback, but struggling to find it. Good defense so far out of Mana, despite this slip-up of letting him into the base.
Yeah. It was certainly a slip-up, but he did handle it with grace and poise. Going for a double robo now, which the Lings do scout.
Timmy Jimmy time hitting us up with that 2-year resub, 24 months, baby. Oh yeah, Timmy Jimmy time.
I just feel like you got to do it like a little like belly, like pat. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about doing the worm or something, like belly flop on the floor.
Or
dance to celebrate, yeah. All right, so the double Immortal production is going to be pretty key. Immortals are so cool now with the way the barrier ability works, and whether it's Hydras, Lurkers, Roaches, you name it, Immortals are really good at winning ground wars. That's why a lot of these Spire swaps are almost not just good choices, but necessary.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Mana gets in the same position as he did in that first game, I certainly have hope for him, but there's going to be a little bit of a difference in that he does have Phoenixes this time. That actually might help him, though, because he'll be able to get to an Oracle faster and get Revelations off. Not have to worry as much about seeing those Lurkers. But we shall see. No Lurker Dents yet, but Rogue has been consistently adding it on. There, okay, there you go. There it is. And Mana would like to see the timing on that, which he does.
Well, the Lurker Den, when we saw this earlier, it was a little bit awkward because the Disruptors required a lot more control than Immortals do. The one problem we do see consistently, though, when you've got that mass Immortal count really does come down to the way you have detection up. Observers just don't cut it. You really almost, not even want, but need Revelation.
Yeah, it's such a useful spell. I mean, unfortunately, it's also something that's not as easy as just, putting your Observer in your hotkey, but it is a lot safer a lot of the times if you're microing, because that Observer gets oftentimes just accidentally sniped, too. Like, not even necessarily a focus fire, but it's always a possibility. This is a mass Hydra army. Good God.
This is Hydra Ling, too. I mean, the Lurkers are going to come into effect, sure, but the amount of Hydras in play currently are very, very scary. Now, it's worth noting, Templar Archive starts up, storms are on the way, but what I like best from this are the force fields, truth be told.
Oh, yeah.
Defensively speaking, Mana can fight with what he has. The army supply is not too bad, and the Immortals, okay, it's not versus armor, but they still hit for 20 a shot.
The first time that I was really convinced that Mana could I guess, get to the semis and then the finals was against Reality in that first game where he actually used force fields to great effect. Like, they've kind of fallen out, but they can still be that very clutch unit that Protoss need.
I mean, we didn't really talk about it much, but it is worth noting a lot of people come into this, and it is sad to see Twitch chat so, like, just dismissive, but Mana did beat Reality in the round of 8 to get here, and he did it really one-sidedly, too.
Yeah, 3-1, and the only game that he won was a 1-1-1, which is borderline cheesy, so...
Yeah, I know. Terran's got some weird, like, lines to cross now when it comes to builds. But, wrapping her on the side...
16 lurkers, holy...
That's expensive.
Yeah.
But
what really sucks is that like any amount of splash would really help out here. Not necessarily deal with the lurkers. Lurkers are actually kind of beefy, but to deal with everything else around the lurkers.
In making out the lurkers, he's lost almost all the Hydras. So the Phoenixes actually only have like 4 Hydras they need to kill. If Mana were going right now, he'd pick those up. They could crowd control the other 6 lurkers and just use the Immortals to kill whatever he can catch.
I guess he doesn't see that, and there's the reinforcements Hydras, so that was a very small timing that he missed.
This is where Revelation was going to be key, too. If he had been tagging the army and seeing what was going on, the Observer getting kind of sniped and picked off, barely alive. He still needs that detection. Very key, very important. Gets 1 lurker for free on the front lines. Burning some force fields going to delay this outwards. I mean, the Immortal count is not the problem. The Immortal count's not the question. It's how do you deal with the Hydras? And those force fields were going to be his best bet to dealing with that. Maybe some more Sentry Warpins wouldn't be too bad in this stage of the game, but Sentries are such a thing of the past. Mana's left a big part of his army on the side, looking for more of a concave, but oh no, he just can't find a good engagement spot.
Every time he only gets 1 lurker, I cry a little inside.
I know.
You know, he's so close to getting 2 with each bump forward from Rogue, who's been reduced a little bit in that lurker count.
Don't put baby in a corner.
Oh no, oh no. The Phoenix is going to try and lift up these lurkers, so the charge out's going to be on top of the Hydras without being just sliced to death, but doesn't really work out. There's just too much of everything.
He is going to break the lurker line by the looks of it, though, but the Immortals don't have enough to take on the Hydras afterwards, and that's where this starts falling apart. So, falling back to the Photon Overcharge, waiting for that next round of Warp-ins, waiting for Barrier to come off of cooldown so he can push forward again with that 200 shield.
I'm a little worried, though. Mana, he might have been warping in more charge lots, but where's the consistent Immortal production? There it is now. Also started +2. Well, Rogue actually has a lead.
He just finished 2 no-wins. I mean, there's like... there's a small break in production. Come down.
It was like 15 seconds, and that's pretty important when the lurkers are right there in front of you.
Well, the Hydras, again, the hardest thing to perhaps deal with here. No time warp going down. The Mothership core just kind of dies. There's still that Overseer, which is a problem. The Observer being the really best form of detection. Now we got those Ravagers on the front lines, too. Mana's got to push in on this at some point. It's his only opportunity to win this game before they get up into his natural.
Moving those Archons is really dangerous. His natural is now under fire. He's going to lose production a little bit here. Immortals do pop out, however, so they're going to be a little bit helpful. Can't take care of the Ravagers too quickly, but the Roaches certainly. There's not a lot of lurkers anymore, and it is a 3-pronged attack from Mana. This is his best bet to get a really good army fight.
That Observer's still standing, but does get sniped off, and I think that was his detection to fight this, so that's going to be it.
That is it. GG!
GG. Congratulations, says Mana, as Rogue will win the Grand Finals. $2,500 goes to him, but don't feel too bad for Mana, guys. You will walk away from this with $1,300 for the second place prize. I look at that and I'm envious because that's more money than most tournaments we can host, much less a first place, second place prize. So, congratulations to both.
Yes. Well, that's it for the best of 9, though. 5-0. That's still a long series.
But this tournament did a couple of really good things for, I think, us as well as the viewers. And it showed us, I mean, to be honest, it's not like, oh my god, we tried something crazy outlandishly new, but it was the fact that all other tournaments right now are still rather reluctant to try breaking away from the conventional best of 3s of the past. And I'm not saying like base rate TV's like blowing doors and, knocking down stereotypes, but it is kind of cool to see that you guys enjoyed the extended best of 3s for the qualifiers, the best of 5s for the group stages. Like, we got really not just great games, but a lot of games out of this tournament in general. Not just here in the finals, obviously, but for everything.
It's going to be a large replay pack.
That is, and speaking of which, I've got to bundle that up and send that out to people ASAP. We got game saved up all the way since the round of 32, so subscribers to the channel, do look forward to checking your inboxes at some point later today. Sorry, one sec. We'll message you on Skype. So yeah, we'll get payment stuff sorted here for the players. It's worth noting, and I this is where I start putting a little bit of responsibility on the sponsors, just to publicly state that the money doesn't come from us. 99% of the time when we run events, we get the money first, and then we do the payouts, but Ting is going to be handling the payouts for this one. We will, however, be committed to making sure all the players get paid, and I'll be helping and assisting in any way possible, whether it's providing a translator or helping just connect the appropriate parties. But that's not the end of the stream. Next up comes Rifkin's embarrassment. We're going to have a best of 3 show match on deck. Me versus combination of Jesse and Zombie Grub. Now, I don't know if Jesse's actually made it home or not. He pretty much said that he was rushing home from the Uber the second we started playing the 10-minute AMA. So hopefully he's home soon-ish. But there's a lot of things I want to talk to him about before we even get into that best of 3 and find out whether we can get another tournament from Ting. Remember, the whole goal was to get 40 people signed up and using Ting by the time this tournament was finished. And if we did, they'd give us another $5,000 for another tournament somewhere down the line. So I don't have the numbers for that. We hit 35 or 36 something on one of the previous streams, but Jesse will let us know when he comes on to talk. Because what I really like about Jesse is, like, it's a kind of he's a bit of a nerd. He likes StarCraft. That's all good, but it's the fact that he had that passion to, like, really get involved. Like, he could have just dumped the money and said, "Okay, get us numbers and we'll see you later," like most sponsors do. But instead, he was like, "Yeah, let's get really involved. Let's see how things go. Let's get people that AMA or that video where he's playing with the fans."
Yeah. It has been awesome working with them. We really hope to be working with them in the future, which is going to be like, we need a drum roll whenever he's available.
I know, like, will it come? I see him there in chat, so I'm assuming he's home. We're gonna go send off to an ad break for just a moment, guys. When we come back, hopefully Jesse will be able to talk with us, and then we'll get that best of 3 underway, where it'll be me versus Jesse, and Zombie Grub helping Jesse on the side. So don't go anywhere, guys. I guess here's a couple of commercials from Ting showing off their fun side. And we'll be back in a few minutes with, again, hopefully Jesse home and good to go. I know a lot of you guys love Isabel, so we'll give her some love here in the finals. One last time, the Isabel ad.